Okay, this video assumes that you've port forwarded your public IP on port 80 to the computer that you're going to be using for the actual web hosting. But if you haven't, I'm going to quickly go through the BT Hub firewall setup, and I'm just going to see here that the external ports, port 80, are set to the internal ports, port 80, on the computer that you want to be able to do your web serving on. And in my case, I am using this machine, which is 192.168.1.80, which is called GR1, and I'm forwarding TCP and UDP both to that machine. Once you've set those up on the port forwarding rule, you just press save and you're done. Hello, welcome back to part 2 of setting up XAMPP and FFMPEG to stream an RTSP webcam into a web hosted folder. Now, in the last video we set up both FFmpeg and XAMPP to do what we need to do. Now, the first thing that we need to do is auto start XAMPP when the machine starts to run. And there's an easy way to do this. So, if we go to the programs and we scroll down to where it says X and you get XAMPP, click on XAMPP and you'll see here the orange icon, XAMPP control panel. With the left click on your mouse, so press the left button here and don't click it, just hold it down, and as you're holding it down, drag it onto the desktop. There we go. And go back to the start button, right click the start button and press run. And we want to type, as you can see here, shell : common space startup. Now if we press OK at that point, you'll get a folder pop up, and as that folder pops up you can then drag XAMPP into that folder, and so now the automatic start system will start XAMPP when the machine powers up. So restart the machine and XAMPP should automatically. I'm going to restart the machine, restart. Okay, so my machine has restarted, and if I go down to the bottom of the taskbar and click on show hidden icons, you'll see the orange icon for XAMPP control. So let's single click on this, and there we are, the XAMPP control panel. Now, to start the modules, we want to start Apache module when it starts. If you press config and you want to click Apache, auto start of modules Apache, and also click start control panel minimize so you can see the little icon a little bit clearer, and then press save. Press X, and the next time that you reboot your machine, XAMPP will now be running automatically in the taskbar. So as we've added XAMPP into the start menu, we'll also need to add in the batch file into the start menu as well for the FFmpeg to create the files. So let's click on the folder for the FFmpeg and go into bin, and we can see webcam.bat, which is the file that we've been using to create the video files. So let's right click on webcam.bat, click create shortcut, and let's drag it also into the start menu. So now when the machine starts, it will automatically also start up our batch file to create our video files. So the next thing that we want to do is give our computer a domain name so that we can talk to it from anywhere in the world, not just on our local network. In the last video we gave our computer a server, so we can see that our default, we said nothing here, and then /video/video.htm, and we had a little player, and this is still the same archive of the video from the last recording. but I want to see this from the outside world. If we try to view this from an office or somebody else's computer, then all they'll get is a not found. So what we need to do is replace our public IP address with a domain name. Let's just type in what's my IP. Now my IP address will change on a daily basis, but I can see at the moment it's 86, 150, 246 and 151, but tomorrow that may be very different. Ideally, I want to be able to have an IP address which is always the same. Now it may be possible to purchase a fixed IP through your ISP, but sometimes most ISPs don't nowadays give fixed IPs, or they may do, but for a much higher cost. So one alternative is to use a dynamic IP lookup, and one service which will do that is called NoIP. So in Google we just type no-IP and the top one comes up. Now NoIP is a paid for service. It doesn't cost much per year. I think it's something like less than £20 per year. And with an account you can forward a domain to your IP address. So the first thing to do would be to register and just sign up, create your IP account. So once you've logged in and registered onto the web page, you can have a look at your managed DNS. These are the addresses that you've assigned to an IP. So here, if we go to My Account, and I'm going to go and have a look, I can see that I've got one active subscription, which cost me $24 for the year. I can click on Dynamic DNS, and I can see that I'm actively using 3 out of my 25 available host names. I use these for different projects. So I've blurred these ones, so I'm not making these ones all public, but I will add a new host name. So let's click on Create Host Name, and I want to create a host name. I want it to be DNS host A type. My address will be let's test this at DDNS.net. This is my current IP address. It knows where I'm coming from at the moment, and I can create a host name. And as you can see here, let's test this.ddns.net. Okay, so I click on dashboard and I can see that it says 2 hosts without recent dynamic updates. So if I go to dynamic DNS, I scroll down, you can see I've got 4 out of 25 available host names. So these ones are blurred, but this one is the one we've just set up. Let's test this.ddns.net. You can see that last updated, and that's what it thinks the IP address should be. So let's go to let's test this.ddns.net. So we click on a new tab, let's test this.ddns.net, and what are we going to get? This is the web server that we were doing on the last video. How about if we go /video/video.htm. There we go. So that web player is now on let's test this.ddns.net. So as we press play, we'll see the video isn't actually playing, even though the actual player can come up. And the reason for that is quite simple. If we right click on the page and click View Page Source, you'll notice here in the Source SRC tab that the IP address for the location of the M3U8 file is actually looking for our local network, not the public network. So what we need to do in our HTML file on the server is replace 192.168.1.80 with the name here. And in this case, it's let's test this.ddns.net. So if that was http let's test this.ddns.net/video, then that would work quite well. Now the one thing that's being indicated here is the last update tab. It says the last time we have received an IP address update for your hostname. So when your power cuts and your router restarts, it may possibly get a new IP, and then this IP will be out of date. So how do we update that? So one way that we can get this information updated is to use what NoIP supply as a dynamic update client. So if you click on Dynamic Update Client in the menu here, you can download their update client. So I'm just going to click download and it should start downloading. Here we go. And I'm going to click Setup, Agree, Install, Launch DUC. So in the NoIP Dynamic Update Client, I can type in my username and my password. So what do I want it to update? I want it to update let's test this.ddns.net. I can press save and the system is updated. I can close, and now DUC will automatically start when your machine starts running. If your IP changes during the week, it will automatically update the IP address as well. You can see here, it will next check in 4 minutes and 29 seconds. Very simple. So now we've got a domain name looking at our IP address. We can see that it's working if we go to let's test this.ddns.net/video. But as we were talking about earlier, we can't see our video playing because this IP is looking for a local network and we are now on a public network. So I'm going to copy let's test this.ddns.net and I'm going to select and Control C, and we're going to go to the folder where our web pages are stored, which in this case was C web pages video. Now I'm going to open Notepad and I'm going to drag video.htm into that Notepad, and I'm going to replace that 192.168.1.80 in my case with Control V. I'm just going to paste http let's test this.ddns.net / we only want to have one / video stream m3 u8. That looks good to me. So file, save, X, minimize. Let's refresh this. There we go. So on the machine on our local network, I've gone to let's test this.ddns.net / video, and I can see the video. So this now means that this page is visible from anywhere in the world. And here we go, we can see it on my mobile phone. As you can see, I've turned off my local Wi-Fi and I'm only connected to my mobile network. If I bring up a web browser in my mobile and I'm only connected to the mobile network, you can still see that I've got access to that webcam feed. So in our last video we created the webcam.bat file to run the command to get FFmpeg to talk to the camera to dump the TS files into the web pages/video folder, and that worked a treat. So here we can see that the TS files are being created and dumped into the folder. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it continues to go on. Now, the stream.m3u8 file refers to the files that are needed, and that's it. Now we can actually look inside that file by looking, if we go to Start, right click on Start, Run, Notepad, we can actually look inside the m3u8 file and see what it's using. So the only files that it's actually using in this instance are 0, 1, 2 and 3. 0, 1, 2 and 3. We've asked the software, if I look inside our batch file, to create 5 files. So HLS-HLS time 5, segment time 5, list size 5. So if the list size is 5, then if we count back from the latest files, 76543, it doesn't really need 0, 1, 2 and 3 because they're the oldest files. Let's look inside stream again, and you can see that it's only using 8, 7, 6, 5 and 4. So these older ones could actually be deleted. Now there is an automatic way to ask the system to delete those files. What I'm going to do is I'm going to reopen the batch file in Notepad. And I'm going to add a command just here. HLS flags delete segments. And what this will do, this will delete any segments that aren't needed from now on. So -f HLS, HLS flags delete segments, -HLS time. So I'm going to exit that and save, and I'm going to stop that application running. And now what I'm going to do is delete the TS files that the system created, and I'm going to delete the stream m3u8. And let's rerun that and see what happens. So what I'm expecting is the system to create an m3u8 file, and I'm expecting it to create the TS files, but now I'm looking for the system to delete the oldest TS files once they've been expired by newer files because of the file count should be greater than whatever we've typed in. Okay, so we've got 4 files so far. Five TS files, and there we go, it's deleted the oldest stream file that it's needed, and again it's deleted it. So that's a really good way of then saving your disk space. And there we go, we've got to the 10th file, the 11th file now, and only the files that are now needed for the player are being made available, and all the other ones are being deleted. So that's really good. So that completes all the steps to get FFmpeg and XAMPP to deliver the video into the web page for viewing on a public network. And one last thing that could be changed is just a security flag. Now let's look at our address here. We've got video/video.htm, but if we remove video.htm we get our directory listing, which isn't overly secure. So ideally we can change that by going to our web pages directory, and where we've got the video.html file, let's rename it to index.html. And now let's click on refresh on the page, and you'll see that the main index file is now replaced with content, and that basically means that nobody can just look into that directory and see all your TS files and other files that are in there. So now our video URL is a little bit more secure. And there we go. That's the final step of creating our domain name from our dynamic IP. And you can see that we've got our webcam directly on the internet. This could be embedded into another web page if needed be using an iframe, but then again, that's maybe another video. Hope you've enjoyed watching this video, and if you've got any questions, please pop them down below. Thanks very much.